Procrastination feels like protection. Your mind tells you that if you don't start something, you can't fail at it. That belief runs underneath almost every delayed task, every unopened email, every project sitting untouched on your desk. Fear of failure convinces you that waiting is safer than trying. Here's what that fear actually costs you. Avoiding a task creates more stress than doing the task ever would. You carry it with you all day. It sits in the back of your mind while you try to relax. The task doesn't disappear because you ignored it. It grows heavier the longer it waits, and it doesn't wait alone. New deadlines land on top of it. New responsibilities pile up. What started as one difficult task turns into a mountain, and the mountain keeps growing every day you feed it with delay. This is what procrastination actually is. It's choosing to put off something important, even though you know that choice will cause you stress, guilt, or consequences later. You're not confused about the outcome. You know exactly what waiting will cost you. You do it anyway. Procrastination isn't a mistake made from ignorance. It's a decision made in spite of knowledge. Procrastination is a behavioral habit, a pattern you learned and reinforced over time as a way to manage stress. You avoid the task because avoidance gives your nervous system relief in the moment. That relief is temporary, but your brain doesn't care about later. It cares about the discomfort happening right now. And putting off the task removes that discomfort instantly. This is why the habit sticks. It works in the short term, every single time. Certain traits make this pattern stronger in some people than others. Low impulse control makes it harder to sit with discomfort long enough to push through it. High anxiety makes the task itself feel bigger and more threatening than it actually is. Perfectionism adds another layer, because if you can't do something perfectly, some part of you decides it's safer not to do it at all. These traits don't make you broken, they make you human, and they explain why this pattern shows up consistently across so many people's lives. Here's the part that changes everything once you understand it. The root cause of procrastination is poor emotional regulation. You're procrastinating because your brain is trying to protect you from feelings it doesn't want to face. Anxiety about failing, insecurity about not being good enough, fear that starting will confirm your worst suspicion about yourself. Your mind decides the fastest way to escape those feelings is to avoid the task that triggers them. This means procrastination is an emotional problem wearing a time management disguise. You can buy every planner, download every productivity app, and build the most detailed schedule in the world, and you'll still procrastinate if you haven't dealt with the emotions underneath the behavior. Time management tools organize your hours. They don't touch the fear driving your avoidance. Think about the emotions involved. Anxiety about the outcome, boredom with a task that feels tedious, frustration when something doesn't come easily, overwhelm when a project feels too large to hold in your mind at once, self-doubt about whether you are capable of doing it well, fatigue that makes even small tasks feel impossible, insecurity that whispers you'll be judged for the result, resentment toward the task itself or toward whoever assigned it to you. Every one of these feelings can trigger the same response. Avoid the task, and the feeling goes away, at least for now. Once you see procrastination this way, you stop blaming yourself for being weak or undisciplined. You see it for what it is, a coping mechanism, a way your mind manages emotional discomfort by removing the source of that discomfort from your immediate attention. This shift matters because it changes how you approach the fix. You stop trying to force yourself through willpower alone. You start addressing the emotional root instead. So how do you actually stop procrastinating? Start by breaking the task down. Overwhelm is one of the biggest drivers of procrastination, and overwhelm comes from looking at a task as one giant, undefined block of effort. Your brain sees something massive and immediately searches for an exit. Break that same task into small, specific steps, and each step becomes manageable. Instead of write the report, you have open the document, and write one paragraph. Instead of clean the house, you have clear off the kitchen counter. The fear driving procrastination is rarely about the actual task. It's about the size and vagueness of the task in your mind. A 5-minute action doesn't trigger the same fear response as an undefined, hours-long project. Next, remove the distractions sitting between you and that task. Every open tab, every notification, every phone within reach gives your brain an easy escape route the moment discomfort shows up. If you're facing a task that triggers anxiety or self-doubt and your phone is buzzing next to you, you'll reach for it because your brain will always choose the fastest path away from discomfort. Put your phone in another room. Close every tab that isn't related to the task. When avoidance takes more effort than the task itself, you're far more likely to stay with the task. Then comes the part that changes the game completely. And it's simple. Start the task as soon as possible, before you give yourself time to think about it. This is the actual cure, not motivation, not waiting until you feel ready, not building the perfect plan first. Action, taken immediately, before your mind has a chance to build up fear around the task. Here's why this works. The longer you sit with the idea of a task before starting it, the more time your brain has to imagine everything that can go wrong. It builds a story, it rehearses failure, it reminds you of every time something similar didn't go well. By the time you spend 20 minutes thinking about starting, the task has grown in your mind into something far scarier than it actually is. Thinking about that task is where the fear gets built. Action interrupts that process before it gains momentum. The moment you take action, even in the smallest way, you're no longer procrastinating because procrastination requires delay, and you've removed the delay. You don't need to finish the task to break the pattern. You only need to start it. Thinking is where procrastination lives. Action is where it dies. The two cannot exist in the same moment. You are either delaying or you are doing. Readiness comes from doing the thing, not from waiting to feel a certain way before you do it. Pick the task you've been avoiding the longest. You already know what it is. It's been showing up every time you try to relax, every time you scroll past it in your notes app or see it written on a sticky note on your desk. Break it in the smallest possible first step. If it's a project, the first step might be opening the document. If it's a conversation you've been avoiding, the first step might be typing the first sentence of the message. If it's a workout, the first step might be putting on your shoes. The size of the step doesn't matter. What matters is that it's small enough your brain can't build a convincing case against it. Clear the space around you so the only thing left to do is the task itself. Then do it immediately, before you convince yourself that tomorrow will be a better time. Tomorrow will feel exactly the same as today because the fear driving your avoidance doesn't fade with time. It only grows if you leave it unaddressed. This will feel uncomfortable the first few times you try it. That discomfort is normal. You're interrupting a pattern your brain has relied on for a long time to manage stress. But every time you choose action over avoidance, you send your nervous system a new message. You show it that the task wasn't as dangerous as it imagined. You show it that starting didn't lead to the disaster it predicted. This is how the habit forms, not through a single moment of willpower, but through repetition. Every time you take action immediately, instead of delaying, you strengthen a new pattern. Eventually, taking action becomes your automatic response to difficult tasks, the same way avoidance used to be. You stop needing to talk to yourself into starting. You just start, because that's what you do now. You're not failing at time management when you procrastinate. You're protecting yourself from an uncomfortable feeling, and the protection is costing you more than the feeling ever would. The anxiety you're avoiding by not starting is smaller than the anxiety you carry by leaving the task unfinished. The task sitting undone in the back of your mind takes up more space than 10 minutes it would take to face it. The way out isn't complicated, even if it feels hard in the moment. Break the task down until avoiding it takes more effort than starting it. Remove every distraction that gives your brain an easy escape. Then act immediately before your mind has time to build a case against you. Do this enough times and it stops being a technique you have to remember. It becomes who you are. Someone who starts. Someone who doesn't let fear sit in the driver's seat. Someone who understands that the stress of doing is always lighter than the stress of avoiding.